Hello, and welcome to the Wade Borth Podcast. I'm your host, Wade Borth, and in every episode, my goal is to get you to think differently about how money works and ultimately to empower you to take control of your money and your personal financing system. So today I want to talk about what's more valuable, the tool or the mastery of the craft, or the skill you need to run that tool. And the reason I'm bringing this up today is there's so much noise, and I hear it and I see it. Working with new agents and veteran agents as well as clients, they're always focusing on, well, this TikTok user said do this, or this design of a policy is the best. And I guess I think about it and like, man, are we succumbing to this idea of the most valuable thing you can have is the tool? And I think about this from the standpoint of, let's take a power saw or let's take a skill saw and take a look at that. And when I mean skill saw, obviously that's my skill, but just a saw that a carpenter would use, and say, what is more valuable? Is it the saw that we buy? Is it the tools we use? Or is it the knowledge and understanding of how we use those, the most important thing? And so again, I'm going to take it back to what I'm hearing on TikTok, and this is the only policy design. And if you're not doing this policy design, you're getting ripped off. And I think about it as like, what are they providing? What are people out there providing for you to implement this idea of becoming your own banker, taking control of the banking function in your life? So today on the Wade Borth Podcast, I'm just going to rant a little bit because I'm frustrated with our industry and the people that are out there, that we have a great opportunity to teach and empower people to become. Let's go back to Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, and that strong word of become. And so we have the opportunity to help people, empower people to become their own bankers, right? Take control of that banking function in their lives, find the freedom that they're looking for. But instead, we're squabbling and we're, I think, picking a fight where a fight doesn't need to be picked, in the sense that we want this perfect design of this product or this tool that's put on the shelf. And it feels like the guy that goes up and down the street selling power tools or selling the spray to take grease stains out of your concrete. I mean, that's kind of what this feels like to me, is that they're not really giving you the skill. They're just selling you the tool and then saying, good luck, go figure that one out for yourself. So today, if you want to go to our website, Sagewell Strategy, listen to our podcast, go on iTunes, listen to our podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcast, just go back and look and get a feel for what we're talking about. We're trying to empower people on how to take control of this function in their lives, this financing function in their lives. And we provide tools, we provide ideas, conversations. And rarely do we ever talk about just the product. Because the product to me is just that. It's important to the product manufacturers, but it's not important. It is important. It is the tool. And I heard this said one time that, I'm going to date myself a little bit. For example, Tiger Woods, back in his heyday, think about how powerful he was or how dominating he was just in the golf industry. Some of you might golf, most of you might not golf, but we all knew who Tiger Woods was. Michael Jordan, whoever it is, the tops in their business. And Tiger Woods could go out and take my old ratty golf clubs and beat pretty much anyone on earth. It didn't really matter what tool he was using. It was a swing coach. It was his dedication, his discipline to his craft that made him so special. It wasn't the club. He obviously needed a good club, but he didn't need, his focus was never on the club. And quite frankly, when it was on the club, it was on the putter, because that's where he made his most money, is because he could putt so well. So just sports analogy really works here. And I'll use sports analogies where they need to be, but just think about that for a second. All the club manufacturers, the pro shops that are in your neighborhood, they're always going to talk about how great this driver is or how great these clubs are. When in all reality, I look at my golf game. It's not the clubs that make my golf game terrible. It's Wade's dedication and time to that craft that makes my golf game terrible. So when you're out there and you hear TikTok people on interweb talking about this product design, or this is the only way to do it, or come talk to us because we have the perfect design or we have the perfect product, take a step back and ask the question, well, what are you doing to empower me to become that banker? What are you doing to empower me to take control of that function in my life, versus just selling me a product? And it's not that the product is bad, but it's just most people have a lack of understanding what the problem is. And if by having a conversation with me or somebody on our team, and we can say, what is the problem? The problem is that we don't save enough. So therefore we have to go to Wells Fargo and we become indebted to people that are not us or not within our family. And so then we're beholden to somebody else. That's the problem. And then we finance everything we do because we don't have the money in the reserve. So if we could save enough and in the right environment create this pool of money, then we can go and say, okay, what's the process, and get a really good understanding of the process. And then the last part of that is, okay, then what product do we use? And again, I'll go back to the carpenter conversation. If you're a good carpenter, a lot of times the tools that they have as a good carpenter are, quite frankly, maybe a bit used and old and dated, but it's his understanding of how to use those things. That's where the real value comes in. It's not the shiny Milwaukee power saw that he has, or DeWalt or Makita, whatever it is that you like. It's not that, because again, I don't want to get into that argument, right? I don't want to become a Makita salesman or a DeWalt salesman. I want to be out there saying, how do we use these things properly? Because if you know how to use them properly, you can take a handsaw and build a house. But if you don't have the knowledge and understanding, you can have all the greatest tools in the world and never be able to build a house. So what we try to do here at Sage Wealth, and really with the partners that I work with, is to give you that knowledge, empower you with that knowledge on how to build your financial house. Now, are the tools going to be important? Absolutely. The tools are always important, but what is more important is how do we use those tools? And I would just caution everybody, and this, I know it's a bit of a rant. I get a little frustrated because so much of the conversation, so much of the noise that's out there is around what policy do you have, what design do you have, versus saying, how are you using it and how are you putting it to work for you? Does this fit for what your purpose is? Those are the questions should be asked, not design right off the bat. Design conversation should come at the end. So anyhow, I'll leave you with that. Just a real quick note, just as you look at the process, look at the people you're talking to, have a conversation with them. I love to have clients have conversations with me like, hey, I'm thinking about this strategy. We want to do this. I don't have the answers to a lot of those because I'm not an investment guy. There's a lot more, there's people that are a lot sharper at real estate than I am. What I can do and what I can give you is, okay, once you decide that's where you want to go and that's what you want to do, how do we use your policy, your systems, your system of policies to go finance that? And what rules do we have around that? And what payback terms are you going to pay? What time frame? I can help you with all that. So I can bring the discipline to help you become very good at that part of it. And again, we want to stick in our lane and say, here's where my expertise is at, and not try to be a generalist. So again, I would encourage you, whoever you're working with, if you're listening to the podcast, you're a client of mine or a potential client of mine, client of somebody else that is one of our partners, you're working with Factum people, whoever it might be, engage with them. Ask them these questions. And then you're going to really see who is the craftsman in the industry versus just somebody that's just peddling a product. So I would encourage you to have those conversations. Tune down the noise. There's a lot of noise out on the internet. There's a lot of what I call TikTok voices out there that are talking about stuff that really isn't true. But nobody's challenging them because nobody wants to take a step back and say, well, what's the process that we use it? We're all clamoring for the perfect product. I can tell you there's not a perfect product. The perfect design, the perfect product is the one that you actually implement and take action with. Because education all on its own is useless. But when you take education and match it with action, that's when you find some real power. So I encourage you to have those conversations. Again, go to sagewealthstrategy.com, look at our material, look at our podcast, reach out to me. Love to hear from you. Thank you. If you're enjoying this podcast or know anyone else that might be interested, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and please leave a review. This will help this podcast reach and help more people by ranking higher in searches and ultimately help more people get out of financial bondage. And don't be afraid to share this podcast with your friends and family, as we can be easily found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.